What's up guys, it's MTG Matt for you, and today I'm very excited to present to you 5 decks ideas I have for you for Kaldheim. We are in the release week, so Thursday is gonna be the day where Kaldheim is released, and I'm really excited about this. And I've already done some Firja crafting for you guys, so I've got 5 deck lists for you right here, which you can try on the release day or any other day. And get some inspiration from my ideas and just try them out. I'm certainly going to try them out. So let's hop right into it. Alright, the first deck I want to present to you is what I call a Niko's Foretell deck, right? So Niko Aris is this new planeswalker you can see here. I actually zoom in a bit. I think this is better, yeah. Niko Aris, new planeswalker, right? And Foretell being a new mechanic, I thought, okay, I want to build an Azorius control deck with as many new cards as possible. And I've came up with this. So I'll go through the cards one by one and, just try to explain my logic here. So first off, let's start with the win condition of the deck. The win condition of the deck is stalling the game out, as a usual control deck does, right? And then we actually have several ways of winning. So the special thing about this Azorius control deck is that while the play pattern is pretty similar in regards to the fact that we want to stall the game and then we, get down one of our win conditions. What the actual win condition is can vary a bit. So we got 2 Dream Trawlers, very obvious. It's an Azorius All-Star. You all know it by this point. It's just a win condition by itself, okay, at the 6 mana slot. Then another win condition we have is Archon of Sun's Grace, which I have a one-off in there. And so the Archon of Sun's Grace creates a 2/2 white Pegasus creature token with flying whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under our control. And the Archon itself gives all those Pegasus creature token lifelink. So with Archon, we can basically make a huge board of Pegasus lifelinkers that can win us the game. And we benefit from the enchantments we run in the deck. But I'll come to that later. So we got Dream Trawler, Archon of Sun's Grace. And then basically as a third win condition, we got Kaldheim Unleashed as a 2-off. Also one of the new cards from Kaldheim. 4 mana sorcery, create a 4/4 white angel warrior creature token with flying and vigilance. If this spell was foretold, create X of those tokens instead. We can foretell this spell very early in the game, as early as turn 2. You just put it aside, and then if the game goes on and on and on, later in the game you have 8, 9, 10 mana lying around. Put all that mana into Kaldheim Unleashed and get a full board of flying angels at once. Can be very powerful. And I mean, imagine actually that Kaldheim Unleashed is especially helpful against other control decks when games go really long. So these are our 4 win conditions basically. It's Dream Trawler, Archon of Sun's Grace, and Kaldheim Unleashed. This is how we win the game. And now how do we get there? Well, first off, we run 4 Doomskar. So just as a heads up, as you know, it's going to be release week. You just want to experiment, right? At least that's what I really like to do. Experiment with the new cards and try them out. And I think Doomskar can really replace Shatter the Sky. So we put 4 Doomskars in here to destroy creatures, and we can do a board wipe as early as turn 3 with the Foretell mechanic. So we get there with Doomskar. Doomskar is wiping the board. Then let's look at our early disruption. Run 2 Jawari Disruption. Can also be played as a land, as a blue mana source, or we can't target spell unless its controller pays 1. Very good in the early game. In the later game, it's just land. Then we got 2 Essence Scatters. In the early game, the creatures are what really, bug us and can really threaten us. So we got 2 Essence Scatters. And Disdainful Stroke is back in standard. So I first thought about putting negates in here, but I thought, you know what? Let's put in 2 Disdainful Strokes. From a meta standpoint, this can counter Embercleave. Although, actually, I think if Embercleave is discounted, it doesn't have a CMC of 4. Okay, so never mind. It can potentially counter a Great Hand, it can counter bigger creatures or planeswalkers, so I just want to try this out here. You can basically swap it out anytime for another counter spell, for a negate, for example. Something like that. Or more essence scatters, depending on the meta. But, you know, just trying out the Disdainful Stroke and see how it feels. Speaking of counter spells, I've got 3 Saw It Coming. A new counter spell from Kaldheim with Foretell, and when we foretold it, we can counter any spell for 2 mana. So this just seems really great. On face value, it's simply a cancel, 3 mana counter anything, we just know that. But it's got this added benefit of foretelling, so by investing a bit more, we can then later cast it for just 2 mana, which is really nice. So this is our counter package. Then we run 3 Skycliff Apparitions, also an all-star these days in control decks, really nice. And then let's come to Niko, because Niko has a nice synergy with Skycliff Apparition. So Niko Ares is a new planeswalker from Kaldheim. You probably can't read this because it's too small, but I'll explain it to you. He counts down, he costs 3 mana in Azorius Claws plus X, and you can pay, you know, plus X mana. And when Niko Ares enters the battlefield, he creates X shard tokens. And shard tokens are enchantment tokens that you can sack for 2 mana and then draw a card. So, first off, with this enter the battlefield effect, we can make a lot of shards that let us draw cards, but more importantly, it has synergy with our Archon of Sun's Grace, because if we got the Archon down, and let's say we cast Niko Ares for a total of 6 mana, so X equals 3, it comes down, creates 3 shard tokens, all of those are enchantments, so we create 3 Pegasus creature tokens, which seems really, really cool. So that's one synergy there. However, there's even more synergy with Skycliff Apparition, because the +1 of Niko Ares says that we target creature we control, it becomes unblockable, and when it is combat damage to a player, we return to our hand. So what we can do is exile non-land permanent or opponent controls with Skycliff Apparition, then make it unblockable with Niko Ares, swing with Skycliff Apparition, Skycliff Apparition comes back to our hand, our opponent gets some spirit, I think it is, right? But that doesn't really bother us, it's easy to remove. But we get a Skycliff Apparition back in our hands, so we can remove even bigger threats, or we could even remove the spirit, right? If we wanted to. So, pretty cool synergy with Skycliff Apparition there. And then besides that, Niko Ares is just a really nice value planeswalker. The first -1 lets us deal damage to target tapped creature for each card we've drawn this turn. Can be occasional removal, I imagine. But more importantly, the third ability, -1, create a shard token. It just lets us draw cards, right? So which is excellent in the control deck. So run 2 Niko Ares. If this planeswalker turns out to be really good, we can probably up this up to 3. But as of now, I've put in 2 of these. Then I've got 2 Cosima, God of the Voyage. It's this blue rare god, which I think, you know, I'm really fond of. And what it's doing is you just play it as a 3 mana 2/4 on the creature side, right? And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you can exile it, and then every time you play a land, you can put a Voyage counter on Cosima. And then if you don't for one time, it returns to the battlefield and you draw X cards where X is equal to the amount of Voyage counters, right? Plus it comes back as a huge creature, potentially. So this is just, Cosima for us is just a really nice turn 3 play. Imagine this play pattern. On turn 2, we foretell a Doomscar. On turn 3, we play Cosima. And then turn 4 comes around. Turn 4 comes out, we exile Cosima, with Doomscar, we wipe our opponent's board, and Cosima is in exile, and it's starting to accumulate counters, right? And then sometime later in the game, when it's got several counters, and we really need a card draw, just play a land, she comes back to the battlefield, we draw 4 or 5 cards, or even more, and we got a huge creature on board. And basically for free, right? We invested the mana up front, so Cosima has kind of this foretell mechanic feel in that way. So just the 2 of, I think it's really cool for card draw and just nice design. I want to try it out. And then on the other side, you have this legendary vehicle, which you know, lets you exile cards from your opponent's library and play them, which is cool. You can't see the card right now, but it has a crew cost of 1, so we can actually crew it with Castle Ardenvale we have in here by making human creature tokens. So in some scenarios, there's even some uses for the vehicle side, potentially. Alright, then we got 3 Behold the Multiverse, just another card from Kaldheim, which I think is really good. 4 mana, instant, scry 2, then draw 2 cards. Just on the face, this is just solid, decent, right? But we can even foretell it and then later cast it for 2 mana. So just another card I want to try, which I think is really cool. And the last cards in this deck are 2 Elspeth Conquer Staff, just an all-star. I put these in here because I built the deck and I realized I don't have anything in a deck to remove like really big stuff on the board, because Skycliff Apparition is kept to 4 CMC. So 2 Elspeth Conquer Staff, and then we got a 3 Marius Call, which, you know, are lands. And I put in 1 Elrond's Epiphany for the occasional extra turn. It can help us, you know, close out the game. If we have a Dream Troll on board and then cast an Elrond's Epiphany, just get 2 full cycles of Dream Trollers attacking, which can just really, you know, close out the game for us. And I think 1 copy is more enough. And the last card I want to talk about in this deck here is actually, where is it? Niko Defies Destiny. Actually, the card before this last card. So, Niko Defies Destiny. 3 mana Saga. Chapter 1. You gain 2 life for each foretold card you own in exile. Chapter 2. Add white and blue, spend this mana only to foretell cards or cast spells that have foretell. And then chapter 3, return target card with foretell from your graveyard to your hand. So there's a one-off of this card here because you actually want to you know, play this card later in the game when you have cards foretold in exile and already have also foretold cards in the graveyard, because then this can give you really nice value. Let's say you have 3 foretold cards in exile. You put this down for 3 mana. It gives you 6 life, which is great in a control deck. Chapter 2 gives you some extra mana, which is just nice, you know. Gives you 2 mana so you can foretell some card you have. And Chapter 3 returns a foretell card from your graveyard to your hand. So really nice value. You can get a Doomscar back if you need a board wipe. You can get a Zoid Common back if you want to counter something. Another Starnheim Unleashed to have more angels and so on. It's just, I think, some real nice value as a one-off, and you draw a lot of cards in this deck, so I think it's fine to run this as a one-off, because more is, I think, too much, because this card is pretty situational. But as a one-off, it's just really some great value, and yeah, so that's my one-off. And actually, the last card I have in is Raven Form, a card I rated as tier 1, a 3 mana sorcery in blue, exile target artifact or creature. Its controller creates a 1/1 bluebird creature token with flying, and we can foretell it for 1 blue mana. So here we got our premium removal against creatures, also against artifacts. Get rid of those Ember Cleaves, get rid of those Great Henges. Really, really great. It's at sorcery speed, but it's a downside really we are willing to pay for just exiling artifact or creatures. Exiling is just very powerful. And if you foretell it, we can even, you know, cast it on a later turn for 1 blue mana only. So just some really powerful stuff here, and I think I really like this deck here. So that's the main cards in deck. Let's look at land base. We've got 2 Castle Ardenvales, 2 Castle Vandals, just the usual good stuff, right? 1 Field of Ruin. I put this in there because Crawling Barrens, you know, are relatively common in the meta, and this can just straight up destroy Crawling Barrens for 2 mana, which is cool. Then we got 2 Gates of Isfel, a new utility land also from Kaldheim. We can sack it to gain 2 life, draw 2 cards, just occasionally really, really nice. Then we got 4 Henge-Gate Pathways. So as we know with Kaldheim, those dual modal lands got completed the cycle, so now we actually got Azorius colored pathways, which is super cool. Then we've got, what is it, 5 plains. This actually should also be snow covered plain, but it's usual because of Aetherap. But 5 snow covered plains and 2 snow covered islands. Snow covered because, you know, if we play the Cosima, God of the Voyage, if we play the vehicle side and we exile stuff from our opponents, he might have, you know, we might exile cards from him that use snow mana. So there's no downside in running snow-covered basic lands, so just run these. And then 2 World Trees fixes our mana later in the game. I think these are just general nice. Also, again, with exiling stuff from opponent's library with Cosima's vehicle, this can help you cast them. And then 1 single Tyvar Sanctum. This is just, you know, something I thought of. So we got this Cosima, God of the Voyage, as I told you, and she's a god, right? And the plan with this card is to play it, and then over the course of the game, she stacks up these counters, comes back, and let's say she comes back with 5 counters, she's going to be a 7/9, like really huge creature. If Tyvar Sanctum, you can pay 4 mana, sacrifices, and put an indestructible counter on target god. So later in the game, when Cosima comes back, especially against another control deck, we can just make her indestructible and really annoy our opponent with this. So that's the idea behind this deck. It's probably the first deck I'm going to try out on release day, so really excited about this one. Next up, we've got what I call Tyvar's Elf Tribal. Yes, I built an Elf Tribal deck. I want to try this out. This was actually rather challenging to build because there aren't actually that many great elves, even with Kaldheim coming, but I tried my best, and I think the result is pretty cool. So let's start off here. At our 1-drop slot, we got 4 Jesper Sentinels, 1 green mana for 1/2 Elf Rogue with Reach, and you can tap it and tap an untapped creature you control at 1 mana of any color. It's just a nice 1-drop, it can ramp us, it can immediately tap creatures and calm down, even when the creature has summoning sickness, so that's nice. And it's just a decent 1 mana elf drop. At the 1 mana spot, so to say, I also got Lovestruck Beast. And Lovestruck Beast, while I was building this deck, fitted super nicely into this deck. While it's not an elf, it's just a very powerful aggressive card. And with this elf deck, we want to be rather aggressive, right? And I was struggling with filling out the 1-drop slot, so I thought, you know what, Lovestruck is perfect, because it fills out our 1-drop slot and fills out our 3-drop slot, which I had both trouble filling out. So Lovestruck Beast just perfect for this deck, fills out needed spots here. Then the 2-drop slot is very filled here, so we got 4 Campfire Avengers, 2 mana 3/1 in black. Whenever another non-token elf or berserker you control dies, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Gives us additional card draw, very aggressively statted, which is great as 3/1. So 4 of these. Then we got 4 Wildborn Preservers from Throne of Eldraine. I thought this would be really cool because, you know, the flash is just some added benefit and the reach. But this is actually an elf that can grow over time, and in this elf deck we are rather really good at just putting creatures on the battlefield, specifically non-human creatures. So if we got mana to dump into this, we can make this one really huge, and I like the idea of having 1 unit in the deck that can actually grow large. Then 4 Elf War Masters. This is one of the cards that makes elf possible, actually 2 mana 2/2. Whenever 1 or more other elves enter the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 green elf for a creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn. So let's just make elf tokens, and then got this activated ability, 7 mana, elves you control get +2/+2 Death Touch. Probably won't be that relevant, but occasionally this can win us the game. Also, there's this small synergy with Wildborn Preserver, because Wildborn Preserver has Flash. And Elvish Warmaster says, whenever those elves in the battlefield in your control, so it doesn't specify on your turn, which means if we got an Elvish Warmaster out and Flash in a Wildborn Preserver at our opponent's turn, we also can trigger Elvish Warmaster on their turn. This way get more elves. Then 3-drop slot, as I said, Lovestruck Beast. Aghanim's Awakening is here. I think it fits super nicely into this deck. Because we got a lot of low-cost creatures. As you can see, we got a lot of 2-drops, some 1-drops, and Lovestruck Beast as a 3-drop. So casting this for 6 mana, actually gives us quite some stuff back, which is nice. And now we come to the 4-drop slot, which is really big in this one. So 4 Tyvar Cal, yes, 4 of this elf tribal planeswalker, because I think it's just really great. For 2 reasons basically. First off, it costs you 4 mana, but I imagine in certain situations, if you play this on curve, we can in a way play this for free because it has this static effect that as you control add black mana. So you can play this for 4 mana from, you know, all land base. And then we have some elves on the board that tap 4 mana, which means we can tap those elves to then cast something else. Which means that, in a way, if we utilize the mana we got from the elves on our board, we got Tyvar Cal on the board for free, and then it can still, you know, use its loyalty abilities, which is really nice. So this is pretty powerful. Also, it synergizes with Hard Unites the Elves, 4 mana Saga, which says mill 3 cards. You may put an elf or Tyvar card from your graveyard onto the battlefield. Note that this doesn't specify that the elf or Tyvar card needs to be from the cards you've milled. So you can really access your whole graveyard, which is great. Chapter 2, put a 1/1 counter on each elf you control, just great, we want to be aggressive. And then chapter 3 is kind of removal, right? Whenever an elf you control attacks this turn, target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1 on end of turn. So we can really chip away on our opponent's boards, and even if we don't kill anything, we can make his creatures smaller to be able to break through and kill him. And a really nice play pattern is something like turn 1 we play our Jasper Sentinel. Turn 2 we can, you know, play a 2-drop, and then ideally tap our Sentinel to play another Sentinel or play a human from Lost Struck Beast. And then turn 3, with the Ram from Jasper Sentinel, we ideally already play, for example, Hard Unites the Elves, and the dream is we play Hard Unites the Elves, and then we mill a Tyvar Cal, put a Tyvar Cal onto the battlefield, tap our Elves for mana, play another thing, and, you know, really get the craze going. So that's the dream play pattern. Also in the 4-drop, for that mana, we got 4 Canopy Tacticians, which is our Elf Lord. Other elves you control get +1/+1, plus he taps for 3 green mana, so he can really help us, you know, utilize our mana, which is really great. I don't know how I got my X in there. And this is also really nice to hit for Hard Unites the Elves, obviously. Then 2 Elven Ambush, which is a 4-mana instant saying create a 1/1 green elf for a creature token for each elf you control. I only put 2 of these in here because while this is very powerful, it really totally depends on your board state, and it's, in a way, it's a win more card, right? So this card is better the larger your board is, but if your board is already large, you probably already should be winning, right? So I just put 2 of these in here, but it can be really nice, you know, you cast this on your opponent's end step, get like 3, 4, 5 tokens, which all get buffed up by the Canopy Tactician, and then you're good to go. And then I got 2 Vorinclex Monsters Raiders here. Yes, I admit I put these in here because obviously it's going to be released there. You want to try a lot of cards, right? You want to experiment with them. But I think actually in this deck, this is kind of okay. So, few reasons why I think Vorinclex fits in here. First off, as you can see from my explanation, this elf deck actually has some naturally built-in ramp, right? So it's not unnatural for this deck to easily generate 6 mana, I would say. Which means that it can be rather easy to play the Vorinclex, you know. You can play it relatively early in the game, I would assume. And we want to be aggressive in this deck, and we play Vorinclex, and it's a 6 mana 6/6 with trample and haste, so it fits our aggressive game plan. It totally fits in there. Comes down, can immediately hit something, plus it can immediately, you know, go opponent's face and really smash in there, go in there, and deal a lot of damage. Then we have other really cool synergies. So one cool synergy is with Foretell unites the elves. It says Chapter 2, put a 1/1 counter on each elf you control. Well, with Warring Clacks, those counters get doubled, right? So we put 2 1/1 counters on each elf we control if we got a Warring Clacks on board, which is pretty good. Also, Wildborn Preserver. If you pay X to put counters on this, we double those counters. And you know, there are just these like small synergies here and there. Also, we cut into a land base in a bit, but we got Crawling Barons in here. Also, that was the counters Crawling Barons receive. So there's some synergy there. And actually, the biggest payoff you can have with Warring Clacks in a stack is with Tyvar Kell, right? Remember, Warring Clacks doubles the counters of Planeswalkers entering the battlefield. Now, imagine the scenario where on turn 4 you get a Warring Clacks out, which is possible, I think, with this deck. You smash your opponent's wave with a 6/6 Trample Haster, right? And obviously you need to get lucky for this. I'm not saying it's going to be usual play pattern, but there are going to be situations where you get a Warring Clacks on board and it doesn't get removed. That's just something that's going to happen eventually, right? If Warring Clacks doesn't get removed and you play Tyvar Kell enters the battlefield with 6 loyalty counters, which means you can immediately cast his ultimatum, or his ultimate. -6, you get an emblem with, whenever you cast an elf spell, it gains haste until end of turn and you draw 2 cards. So this emblem is obviously game winning, provides you with resources, all your elves have haste, is just incredible. So because of those reasons, because there's so much synergy, it should be rather easy to cast Warring Clacks, and it fits the aggressive game plan because the creature itself is a Trample Haster. I think this actually fits into this deck pretty well. And I want to note one last thing I want to note about this is that these 2 Warring Clacks plus these 2 Elven Ambush, they together, take 4 slots in our deck. And I thought of, these are the spots I'm like the least sure about whether they are going to fit the game plan. So what you can do is, just experiment with these slots. So one idea is, maybe you want to switch the 2 Warring Clacks for 2 more Elven Ambush. Maybe I underestimate Elven Ambush and it's actually consistently very good. So you can just swatch out these Warring Clacks. Or another idea is, you can take all these 4 spots and exchange them with Tajuri Paragon, which is an elf from Zendikar Rising. Another 2-drop, 2 mana, 3/2, so nice aggressive stats. And you can kick it to look at top cards of your library and get an elf card from there, right? So Tajuri Paragon is just another nice 2-drop elf that can occasionally draw a card. So there's some stuff here which you can switch out and experiment with. But in totally, I'm pretty... yeah, I really like how this deck built out. Let's look at the land base. You got 2 Castle Garnbic, gives us some more ramp, right? Also synergizes really well again with Tyvar Kell. Tyvar Kell makes so elves tap for mana, so we can ramp even more with Castle Garnbic. 2 Castle Lockvein, just some card draw. 2 Crawling Barons, as I said, synergizes with Warring Clacks, but just also gives us this inevitable threat, especially against our control decks. Darkborn Pathways are going to be in the meta, which means we finally have also Golgari colors in the Pathway slot. Forests, again, you can take usual forests or snow-covered forest, doesn't matter. I put on 1 Scam for Elderhall. I actually don't think this card is very great, but as a one-off, just try it out. Enters the battlefield tapped, and we can pay 2 generic, 2 black, and 1 green and sack it to have one of our opponent's target creatures gain -2/-2 until end of turn, and we create 2 1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens. So occasionally this can remove a small creature of our opponent, plus creating a small board for us. So this might be nice, and then 3 swamps. So I think I'm also really looking forward to trying out this deck and get some inspiration here, maybe adjust it to your own with your own ideas and have fun trying this one out. Next up, another deck I'm super excited about. So if you're following my channel, I recently played a Rakdos discard deck with actually pretty good results in the ladder. And when I watched the, Kaldheim review stream, one of the first, I think it was even the first card they revealed, it was Valky God of Lies / the Tibble Planeswalker, right? And I got super excited about this one because it is a Rakdos Planeswalker that perfectly fits into this discard deck. And so I took the core idea of my Rakdos discard deck and adjusted it with new cards from Kaldheim. Really excited to try this one out, so let's go through the deck. At the 1-drop slot, we got 3 Bloodchies first. Just very general, very good removal, right? We already know this. 4 Mazemind Tomes, price with card draw. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the cards we already know here. I'm going to explain more the cards that are added to this deck, right, from Kaldheim. For Croxas, obviously, it's just another ultimate win condition, comes back from the graveyard over and over again, and fits our discard game plan. Then 2 Valky God of Lies. Now, depending on how good Valky is, and I actually mean Valky, I'm not talking about the Tibble Planeswalker, because I think the Tibble Planeswalker is very, very nice, but it's cost 7 mana, so it's not going to happen too often that we play Tibble, but if Valky God of Lies turns out to be a very nice creature, you can probably up this to 3 slots in the deck instead of 2. But for now, I put 2 of these into the deck. So what does Valky do? It's a 2 mana 2/1. And when it enters the battlefield, each opponent reveals their hand. Just before we further read on, just by the way, a nice advantage this card decks have is that you can look at your opponent's hand, which is, it's just actually a lot of nice value. For each opponent, exile a creature card, they reveal this way until Valky leaves the battlefield. So, nice play pattern could, for example, be turn 2, you play Valky, you exile Lovestruck Beast from opponent, and then turn 3, you pay the X, which is choose a creature card, exile to Valky with converted mana cost X, Valky becomes a copy of that card, and bam, you got a 5/5 Lovestruck Beast. And what's actually notable is, which I talked about in my preview video, is that the way this is worded means that Valky becomes a copy of that card, which means that a Lovestruck Beast, you know that card, right? Lovestruck Beast doesn't say on it that the exile creature card returns back to its owner's hand when Valky leaves the battlefield, because Lovestruck Beast isn't Valky. So I think if you use the X, that your opponent's card is actually gone forever, but you're gonna have to play it as this, right? Obviously. And yeah, so Valky also just fits our like hand disruption game plan, but more importantly, on the other side, it's the Tibble Planeswalker, which is just perfect for this deck, because the experience I made with this discard deck in the Zendikar Rising meta was that you actually often end up in this position where both your opponent and yourself, you don't have cards in your hand anymore, but you at the discard deck have a Liana Waker of the Dead on the board, plus a Crawling Barrens, so you're in the advantage, but still you don't have cards in hand. And then the Tibble Planeswalker is just perfect because you play it for 7 mana and it draws you 2 cards every turn with its plus ability, plus it can exile artifacts and creatures, so that's why I'm so excited about this one, because Valky God of Lies / Tibalt, or as I call him, Joker, helps you in the early game, plus provides you this really late game power value house, which is amazing. So that's Valky. Then we got 3 Eliminates, just good. 3 Agonizing Remorse for our discard game plan, really powerful card. Then new card from Kaldheim, Poison the Cup. It's a 3 mana instant in black, destroy target creature. If this spell was foretold, scry 2. Again, we are in a control deck, so we really benefit from this Foretell mechanic. Just occasionally you've got mana lying around. For that discard, and then you, for 2 mana, you remove any creature without any restrictions, plus the scry 2, which is amazing. So I really wanted to try this out. And in the worst case, it's just a murder, right? Murder is just a solid card. Then another removal spell we got is Tundra Fumarole, 3 mana snow sorcery. It says tune your Fumarole deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Add colorless for each snow mana spent to cast a spell. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. So we've got snow basics in this deck because of Tundra Fumarole, also because of Tybalt, which is this added benefit. So Tybalt exiles the top card of your opponents in your library, and you may play those cards, right? Well, if your opponent has placed cards that have snow synergies, this is just another reason to learn snow basics lands besides Tundra Fumarole. And yeah, Tundra Fumarole is really nice. We get colorless mana. So in the ideal world, we play this for 3 mana with 3 snow mana and get 3 mana back. So we basically play this for free. And then we can use this colorless mana to draw a card with Mazeman Torm, or play a Mazeman Torm, or Foretell, for example, Poison the Cup. Right? It's just really nice. And it damages creatures and planeswalkers, which is cool. Then free Liliana, Wake of the Dead. It's a win condition. It helps us massively with our discard theme. And actually, I've played this deck so much that I made the experience that she's actually really good creature removal. It's not unusual to have 4 or 5 cards in your graveyard very early in the game, and creatures rarely get bigger than that. And then she's just 4 mana, play her, -3, remove a creature, and then you can start plussing her to have your opponent discard cards from his hand, right? Then for Haggard Mauling, part of our land base, just destroy target creature, just real nice. For Extinction Event, our board wipe also has proven to be really, really good. And then at the top end, besides still we got 2 Tergrid, God of Fright. I'm also really excited about this one. So Tergrid plus Tybalt is the reason why I'm actually really excited to try out this deck idea with the new cards, because Tergrid, 5 mana 4/5 God with Menace. And it says whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent or discards a permanent card, you may put that card from graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Synergizes with Croxa, synergizes with Liliana, Waker of the Dead, and it's also so nice with the curve, right? So you can play a Liliana on 4, remove a creature from your opponent to secure the board, and then on turn 5 you play Tergrid, and plus Liliana, your opponent discards something, and if it's a permanent card, you actually get it on your side of the board, which is just phenomenal, right? And on the other side, it's the Slam that lets your opponents discard cards unless he pays 3 life, which is just another win condition. So I'm also really excited about this deck with the new cards, because I already know that this deck idea works, right? I tried it out, and now get some new life with it with Kaldheim. Let's look at the man base. We got Blast the Pathway, so we also got the Rakdos Pathway now, which is great. 2 Castle Lockvans for card draw, 2 Crawling Barons for another win condition. Just 2 Fabled Passages, because we actually don't have that many basics in the land, but I thought that 2 Fabled Passages are still nice to have. Also fills up our graveyard for our Croxas. 1 Immerstorm Skullcam, which is this Rakdos utility land. Also fits our discard game plan. We can sacrifice it and then deal 3 damage to target player, and that player discards a card. Just can finish off our opponent and make him discard his card. And then we got Snow-Covered Mountains, Snow-Covered Swarms, 2 Surfer's Mire, which is this snow dual land, right? Just nice. And 2 Temple of Malice, just for another dual land, and the Scry's occasionally pretty nice. So I'm also really excited about this one, especially trying out the Tybalt Planeswalker. I think it's gonna be really, really juicy. So yeah, try it this one. Number 4, I've got an Elf Tribal deck for you here, which I called, how did I call it? Firja's Angel, right? Firja is, I think, this new uncommon legendary angel, which is not in this deck, so don't worry. I only put good cards in here. But yeah, Firja's Angels, basically. So it's Angel Tribal, and it's a mid-range deck. and I think this really has, this seems promising. So follow me along. At the 1-drop, we got Fourth Speaker of the Heavens. Excellent 1-drop, creates angels, and creates from having more life, which has synergy with another card we're going to talk about later, right? Fourth Speaker of the Heavens. 4 Selfless Saviors. Protects our boards because we're mid-rangey. Angels tend to be rather large creatures, and Selfless Savior protects them. I put in Selfless Saviors because instead of Outside of Life's Bounty, because Outside of Life's Bounty still requires you to pay mana, and I figured that in this deck we will very rarely have 1 mana just lying around. We will very regularly just use up all of our mana. So Selfless Savior works without mana, that's why it's here instead of Outside of Life's Bounty. At the 2-drop, we got 2 Youthful Valkyries, excellent 2-drop for this deck. It's a 2/1/3 angel with flying, and whenever another angel enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on Youthful Valkyrie. Just a perfect 2-drop, grows over time. And also nice, it comes down with low power, but with 3 toughness, so it doesn't die to storm immediately, which is great because comes down, it's likely to survive, and then can start growing. 3 Helter's Axed, just as our removal. Well, it's good removal. What else is there to say? At the 3-drop slot, now this is interesting. We got 2 Starnheim Aspirant, 3 mana 2/2 Human Cleric, which says angel spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. Now, I want to give a disclaimer here about this card. I think this card is actually bad in the way that it would probably be better to fill this 3-drop slot with 2 Resplendent Marshals. Resplendent Marshal is this 3 mana 3/3 Mythic Angel from Kaldheim. That when it enters or leaves the battlefield, you exile a creature card from your graveyard, and then all creatures on your board get a 1/1 counter that share a creature type with the exiled card. And Resplendent Marshal is probably better just because it's 3 mana 3/3 with occasional upside. And we want to be aggressive with this deck, right? Plus Starnheim Aspirant just dies from Stomp with 2 toughness, which is bad. But, so just let me say that Resplendent Marshal is probably a better choice. But I put it in here because I want to try the Aspirant, and also secretly, I don't like that Resplendent Marshal is a mythic and it's a bad mythic, so I want to try the Starnheim Aspirant as a 2-off because it synergizes very well with Valkyrie Harbinger, which is our 6 mana 4/5 Angel Cleric with flying and lifelink. And it says at the beginning of each end step, if you gain 4 or more life this turn, create a 4/4 white Angel creature token with flying and vigilance. So if you play Starnheim Aspirant on 3, we can play the Valkyrie Harbinger on turn 4, which is pretty cool, right? Because its cost going to be reduced by 2. But that's just, that's a synergy there. But we only got 2 of these in here because this is really more of an experiment than right out stating that it's actually the correct choice. I think the correct choice here is Resplendent Marshal. But it's the beginning of a new expansion. I think you should experiment. Besides that, at the 3-drop, we got Righteous Valkyrie, an excellent 3-drop, really probably going to be an all-star in this deck. 3 mana 2/4 Angel Cleric with flying. Whenever another Angel or Cleric enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to the creature's toughness. And as long as you have at least 7 life more than your starting life total, creatures you control get +2/+2. So, provides us life gain to support Speaker of the Heavens, to get to the 27 life. And if we had 27 life with Speaker of the Heavens, we can make 4/4 Angels, which get buffed by +2/+2 by Righteous Valkyrie. So this is just really a really powerful card in here. 2 Academy's Awakening, just for occasionally reviving some stuff. And actually, even if you just pay like 5 mana for this, you can get a Speaker of the Heavens back and a Youthful Valkyrie or a Selfless Savior. So some pretty good value. I think this fits into the stack very nicely. Then we got 2 Starnheim Unleashed. Creates angels, also creates this bigger threat later in the game, where we generate a lot of angels, so just really, really cool. Fits perfectly. Then we got 4 Firja's Retribution, which is essentially, it's just another 4-drop angel. That's 4 mana, create a Serra Angel. And I think you should view this card like you have Serra Angels in the deck with occasional upside. Because if we play the Saga and then you still have angels on your next turn, your angels become removal spells, which says, until the end of turn, angels you control gain tap, destroy target creature with power less than this creature's power. Now our angels are going to be usually pretty large because of our Righteous Valkyrie effects, or because our youthful Valkyries have grown so much. So very likely that we can destroy a lot of our creatures. Plus, there is this synergy with Vigilance. So the Kaldheim Unleash angels have Vigilance, the Firja's Retribution angels have Vigilance. Is there something else? Rampage of the Valkyries creates Vigilance, and so Valkyrie Harbinger doesn't have Vigilance. Okay. But just more synergy there, and then on Chapter 3, angels you control again double strike on the end of turn. That's just a finisher. I really would look at this card just as a nice 4-drop, and then occasionally this gives you some really nice value. And then as a 4-drop, you got 1 Legion Angel. This provides us with more resources right from the sideboard. That's really, really nice. And at the 5-drop, you also got 1 Cleaving Reaper. Only 1, because I think this card is actually quite bad in that you get a 5-mana 5/3 with Flying and Trample, but as a one-off, this can come back from a graveyard over and over again by paying 3 life, right? So that's why it has like the same function as Legion Angel in that it provides us with continued resources later in the game. And if you have a Righteous Valkyrie on the board and this comes down, you immediately get the 3 life back that you've paid. Then 3 Rampage of the Valkyries, 5-mana enchantment. When ends the battlefield, we create a Serra Angel again, so just more angels. And then it's got this really nice effect. Whenever an angel you control dies, each other player sacrifices a creature. This card, I'm not so sure about how effective it is, but it really makes it so that if your opponent also has a creature out of the deck, this is probably a big, big pain to deal with, because it can just block with your angels and always, you know, come ahead in the trades, basically. Then I already mentioned Valkyrie Harbinger. This is also going to be a big card in the stack. Very expensive at 6 mana. But as I said, this has some synergy with Kaldheim Aspirant, that we can potentially play this on turn 4. Creates angels whenever we gain 4 more life per turn, and Righteous Valkyrie makes so that this is quite likely. Because 4 life is a really good breaking point, so to say, in that Righteous Valkyrie gives us life equal to Angel's toughness, right? And we produce so many 4/4 angels that it's very easy to hit this 4 life breakpoint. And then the last card in the stack, the last play card, so to say, is Haunting Voyage. 6 mana in black, and it says choose a creature type, return up to 2 creature cards of that type from your graveyard to the battlefield. If this spell was foretold, return all creature cards of that type from your graveyard to the battlefield instead. And the Foretell cost is actually higher at 7 mana. Now, this is a one-off, and it's got this, you know, just nice. It's got the Foretell effect of going for it, which means if you draw this early, it's not a dead draw because you can already invest the Foretell cost into it, right? And then later in the game, you pay 7 mana, and you know, our angels are usually pretty huge, so you can get a Legion Angel back, a Cleaving Reaper, Righteous Valkyries, the Youthful Valkyries, the Valkyrie Harbingers. And if they come back, you know, you have these ETB effects with Legion Angel, Valkyrie, and so on. And because of that, I think Haunting Voyage works really well in decks that, in tribal decks where the creatures are rather huge, and Angel Tribal is that kind of tribal. So I would say just try this as a one-off. Probably pretty cool. Then we got 4 Emeria's Call. You know, just good lands, creates angels. And we get a lot of life, so paying the 3 life to have this enter as a land is probably not that bad. And that's the main deck. Let's look at the lands. We got our usual Bright Cloud Pathways for the Earth's colors, 2 Castle Lockveins for card draw. Again, 2 Feral Passages, just 2, to fetch some basics. 4 Plains, 2 basic Swarms. And the reason I just put 2 Feral Passages in there is because I actually put 4 Radiant Fountains in there, which gain us 2 life when they enter the battlefield. And my reasoning here is that we really want to hit this 27 life because of Speaker of the Heavens and Righteous Valkyrie. And Radiant Fountain can really help us get there, right? So I figured if we put 4 Radiant Fountains in there that generate colorless mana, we have to be more generous with the basic lands, right? So that we don't run into mana problems. And because of that, there are only 2 Fatal Passages in this deck. So that's Firja's Angel Tribal. I actually think it's a promising tribal deck, probably one of the more powerful tribal decks to come with Kaldheim. So, well, good luck trying this out. I'm certainly going to try it out. And number 5, the deck I'm going to present to you is a giant tribal deck, but probably not the type of giant deck you would expect. This one is probably a bit janky, but I still like the idea because our win condition in this deck is Reflections of Ligiara. Yes, this card is probably pretty janky, but I just wanted to try it out because I find it really cool. So Reflections of Ligiara says that it's 5 mana, it's an enchantment, says as it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type, and whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, copy that spell. So if you choose Giant, we can copy all giants that we cast, right? And my reasoning here was that I think this Reflection of Ligiara is just straight up probably a very fun card right away. Is it good? Probably not, because you just pay for 5 mana to do nothing, right? The turn comes down. So because of that, I figured, okay, this probably belongs into a control deck so that you can live with paying 5 mana doing nothing for a turn. And then my second thought was, well, if you're copying creatures, you get the most value if you're copying big creatures, right? So giants tend to be pretty big, so why not copy giants? That was the whole idea for this deck. So we got 3 Reflections of Ligiara, and our win condition is having the Reflections out plus Perforus Bronze-Blooded, which is this enchantment god from Pharaohs Beyond Death, which says other creatures you control have haste. So this means if you got Perforus out and Reflections, and we cast a giant spell, we copy those giants, those big giants, and they have haste, and they can immediately smash face and wreak havoc among our opponents, right? So that's the whole idea about the stack, behind the stack basically. And well, how do we get there? So let's look at the 2-drop slot, right? We got Invasion of the Giants, which is this giant saga, so to say, in Izzet colors, 2 mana. Chapter 1, scry 2. Just some real nice early game value. Chapter 2, draw a card, which is nice. So if you get into Chapter 2, this is already a Omen of the Sea without flash. So Chapter 2, draw a card, then you may reveal a giant card from your hand. When you do Invasion of the Giants, this 2 damage to target opponent or planeswalkers. So we can even target planeswalkers with this. And then Chapter 3, the next giant spell you cast this turn costs 2 less to cast. Can us really help curve out really nicely if you play this on turn 2. On turn 3, we can play a 5 mana giant, which is going to be Quakebringer, or we can play our Calamity Bearer at 4 mana, and we then play it for just 2 mana, right? So Invasion of the Giants is really nice value. Then we got Glimpse the Cosmos, which is a 2 mana sorcery in blue, which says, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So it's an anticipated sorcery speed. But then, as long as we control a giant, you may cast Glimpse the Cosmos from your graveyard by paying blue rather than paying its mana cost. So we can cast this again from the graveyard, look at the top 3 cards of our library again, and get another card. So this is just very efficient card draw right here, with some giant synergy. So this is our 2-drop slot, you know, just gets us going in the game and lets us draw cards. Then let's talk about our removal first. We got 4 Bonecrafted Giants. Obviously, it's an all-star, lets us remove stuff, and it's also a giant. Then we got 3 Raven forms, which I already talked about in Niko Foretell deck. Lets us exile creatures, just really big, nice value. Also, we can use Foretell, which is always nice in the control deck. Then we got 3 Open the Omen Pass. Now, this is the card that's probably most debatable in this deck. But I was building this deck and I was, I was looking at this deck and figured, you want to get to your win condition fast, right? So wouldn't it be nice to have some kind of mana ramp? And Open the Omen Pass gives you that, because we can choose to add 2 mana of any one color and 2 mana of any other color. So we can choose red and blue always, right? And we can spend this mana to cast creature or enchantment spells. Well, Invasion of the Giants is an enchantment. Battle of Frost and Fire is an enchantment. Perforos is an enchantment and a creature. Reflections of Ligiara is an enchantment. And obviously all the giants are creatures, right? So this can help us get the Reflections of Ligiara or Battle of Frost and Fire out 1 turn earlier, which I figured is just nice. And then occasionally we can also pump our creatures. So there's that. This ramps us a bit. For Calamity Bearers, Calamity Bearer works especially well with Reflections of Ligiara, because it says if a giant source you control would deal damage to a permanent player, it is double the damage to a permanent player instead. So if we have the Reflections out, and the Perforos obviously, and we cast the Calamity Bearer, we get 2 of those on the battlefield, which means now all damage from giant sources is multiplied by 4. And if we have more Reflections, this gets even crazier, right? It's like multiplied by 2, 4, 8, and so on. So Calamity Bearer can really be a home run here. Then for more control, you got Battle of Frost and Fire, which is our board wipe here. 5 mana. Battle of Frost and Fire deals 4 damage to each non-giant creature and each planeswalker. Just put it down, boom, wipe the board. We can also cast this 1 turn earlier with the Omen Pass. Then turn 2, Scry 3, which is actually a lot, so some nice value. And then turn 3, whenever you cast spell with converted mana cost 5 or greater this turn, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. So this synergizes well with all of our 5 drops, because Perforos and Reflections of Ligiara likely don't have an immediate impact when they enter the battlefield the turn you play it. So at least if you have a Battle of Frost and Fire out, you can use them to draw additional cards, which is just very, very nice. So Battle of Frost and Fire, just also a big value card. And it's a one-sided board wipe, right? It doesn't affect our giants. And then the last card, or the last giant to talk about, even is Quakebringer. It's the new giant from Kaldheim, 5 mana, 5/4. Your opponents can't gain life, and at the beginning of your upkeep, Quakebringer does 2 damage to each opponent. This ability triggers only if Quakebringer is on the battlefield, or if Quakebringer is in your graveyard and you control a giant. So this also gets really, really nasty if we copy it, because if they survive on your upkeep, you have got multiple Quakebringer triggers, which whose damage can be increased with Calamity Bearer. So this is also just a really big win condition. And overall, as I said, this deck is probably janky. Also, you probably would want to switch the Omen Pass with more removal. I imagine what you could put in is, I think the card is called Squash, which is also a new card from Kaldheim, that deals 6 damage to target creature or planeswalker at 5 mana, but it costs 3 mana less if you control a giant. So this will probably fit into this deck. Again, it's just deck ideas. We can't play it actually yet, so just experiment with this. But I think this deck is probably just more janky, but it's probably a lot of fun to play. Copying those giants, make them hasty and just smash your opponent's face. And then land-based to cast Vantress for, good value. 1 Crawling Barrens for some additional win condition. For Failed Passages, another Field of Ruin against Crawling Barrens. 4 islands, 5 islands, 5 mountains. 4 Riverglide Pathways is our dual Moonlands, and 2 Sutherland Frostspires. Just try this card. Can be a mini board wipe and it's a Scry 2, so I figured why not put this in there. And yeah, just try this deck out. This is probably more one of the more unusual decks on release day, so you could have a lot of fun with that. And yeah, that's number 5. And with that, I wrap up my 5 decks to try out on the Kaldheim release day. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You know, got some inspiration for your Kaldheim release and, you know, spice it up with your own ideas. And I see you guys very soon with Kaldheim videos. I'm super excited and stay tuned.